Chosen ones, your future self is activating the shift right now, and it's calling you to step into a destiny so radiant it will leave the world in awe. This isn't a random moment. This is a divine signal, a spark from the universe igniting the path you were always meant to walk. You're not here by chance. Something within you, your soul, your spirit, knows that a transformation is unfolding. It's not just a change, it's a complete rebirth, a shift that will redefine who you are and what your life means. Get ready, because the person you're becoming is about to shake the foundations of everything you thought possible. This shift isn't small. It's not a quiet whisper or a subtle nudge. It's a roar from the heavens, a cosmic realignment that's pulling you out of the ordinary and into the extraordinary. Your future self is already alive, already moving, already carving out a reality where your purpose shines brighter than any doubt or fear. You've felt it, haven't you? That restless stirring in your chest, that sense that something bigger is waiting. That's your future self reaching back through time, urging you to move forward, to trust, to act. The shift is happening now, and it's your moment to claim it. You've walked through storms that would have broken others. You've faced moments where the world seemed to press against you, where every step felt heavy, yet you kept going. That wasn't weakness. That was strength being forged in the fire of trials. Your future self knows this. It's why they're calling you now, why they're activating this shift. The struggles you've endured weren't meant to bury you. They were meant to build you. Every tear, every doubt, every moment you thought you couldn't go on was a brick laid in the foundation of who you're becoming. You're not just surviving. You're being shaped into a masterpiece of divine purpose. Think about the eagle soaring above the clouds. It doesn't fight the wind. It uses it to rise higher. That's you right now. The winds of life, challenges, setbacks, even betrayals, aren't here to hold you back. They're lifting you, pushing you toward a higher vantage point where you can see the vastness of God's plan for you. Your future self is already there, standing tall, looking back at you with a knowing smile, saying, "You're almost here. Keep going." This shift is your wings unfolding, your moment to soar into a life that reflects the glory of your calling. But here's the truth. This shift demands your faith. It's not enough to feel it or sense it. You have to trust it. You have to believe that the God who set this plan in motion is guiding every step. When you trust, you align with the divine frequency of abundance, purpose, and joy. Doubt will try to creep in. Fear will whisper lies about your worth. But your future self is stronger than that. They've already overcome those shadows. They're calling you to step boldly into the light, to let go of what no longer serves you, and embrace what God has promised. Pause for a moment. If this message is stirring something in your spirit, if you feel the pull of your future self, I invite you to take a stand. Hit that like button, subscribe to join thousands of chosen one souls walking this path, and leave a comment with the number 777. That number carries the energy of divine completion, a sign to the universe that you're ready for this shift. Do it now, because every action you take in faith amplifies the power of this moment. Your future self isn't waiting for you to become perfect. They're not asking you to have it all figured out. They're calling you to move forward with what you have right now. Think of Moses, standing before the Red Sea, staff in hand, with an army behind him and nowhere to go. He didn't have a map or a manual. He had faith. And when he raised that staff, the impossible happened. Waters parted and a path appeared. Your future self is holding that same staff, urging you to raise it, to trust that the path will appear when you take the first step. This shift isn't just about you. It's about the ripple effect you're destined to create. Every time you choose faith over fear, you send waves of light into the world. People around you, friends, family, even strangers will feel it. They'll see the change in you, the way your eyes shine with purpose, the way your steps carry confidence. Your transformation will inspire them to seek their own. You're not just shifting your life, you're shifting the atmosphere around you, becoming a living testament to God's power. The world will try to distract you. It will throw noise, chaos, and doubt in your path. But your future self is unshaken. They've already walked through the noise and come out stronger. They know that every distraction is just a test, a chance to prove that your focus is unbreakable. Like Daniel in the lion's den, you're surrounded by threats, but you're protected by a force greater than any challenge. Your future self is calling you to stand firm, to keep your eyes on the divine promise, and to let the lions roar. They cannot touch you. This shift is also about letting go. You can't carry the weight of your past into the future God has planned. Old habits, old hurts, old doubts, they don't belong where you're going. Your future self is free, unburdened, alive with possibility. They're asking you to release what's heavy, to forgive what's painful, to walk away from what no longer aligns with your purpose. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Like a snake shedding its skin, you're leaving behind what no longer fits, so you can step into the fullness of who you are. Picture a river flowing effortlessly, carving its path through stone over time. That's the power of this shift. It's not forceful or rushed. It's steady, persistent, unstoppable. Your future self is that river, moving with divine purpose, cutting through every obstacle with grace. You don't have to fight the stone, you just have to keep flowing. Trust that every step, every moment of surrender is shaping your path into something beautiful, something eternal. You've been preparing for this moment your entire life. Every choice, every hardship, every victory has led you here. Your future self is proof of that. They're not a distant dream, they're real, alive, and waiting for you to catch up. The shift is happening now, chosen one. It's in the way you choose to see yourself, the way you choose to trust, the way you choose to move forward. God is aligning the stars, opening doors, and clearing paths. All you have to do is walk through them. Sometimes, the shift feels like a quiet whisper in your soul, a gentle nudge to keep going. Other times, it's a tidal wave, sweeping away everything that no longer serves you. Both are divine. Both are necessary. Your future self knows this. They've felt the whispers and ridden the waves. They're calling you to trust both the quiet and the storm, to see every moment as a piece of the divine puzzle God is assembling in your life. This transformation isn't just about what you'll gain, it's about who you'll become. Your future self isn't chasing wealth, fame, or power. They're chasing purpose. They're living in alignment with God's will, radiating peace that surpasses understanding. They're not defined by what the world offers, but by what God has promised. And that promise is unbreakable. It's written in the stars, sealed in the heavens, and alive in your spirit. The shift is also a call to action. Your future self isn't passive. They're bold, decisive, unafraid. They're asking you to make choices that align with your destiny. Say yes to opportunities that scare you. Say no to relationships that drain you. Step into spaces where your light can shine. Like Esther, who risked everything to stand before the king, your future self is calling you to act with courage, knowing that God has already prepared the way. If this message is resonating, if you feel the shift stirring within you, take a moment to declare it. Hit that like button, subscribe to join thousands of chosen one souls, and leave a comment with 777. That number is your signal to the universe that you're ready to embrace this divine transformation. Do it now, because every act of faith moves you closer to the life God has planned. Your future self is also a healer, not just of your own wounds, but of the world around you. As you step into this shift, you'll notice how your presence changes things. People will seek you out, drawn to the peace you carry. They'll ask questions, wondering how you stay so steady in a chaotic world. You don't have to preach or persuade, just be. Your life will speak louder than words, a living testimony to the shift that's unfolding. This journey isn't always easy. The shift will stretch you, challenge you, ask you to grow in ways you didn't expect. But your future self is proof that you're ready. They've already walked this path, faced these tests, and come out stronger. They're not asking you to do anything they haven't already done. They're asking you to trust the process, to lean into God's plan, and to believe that every step is leading you to a life of purpose and power. Sometimes, the shift feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into the unknown. It's scary, but it's also exhilarating. Your future self is already on the other side, calling you to leap. They know the fall won't break you, it will set you free. Like Peter walking on water, you're being asked to step out of the boat, to trust that God's hand is holding you, even when the waves look fierce. This shift is also about rediscovery. You're not just becoming someone new, you're uncovering who you've always been. Beneath the layers of doubt, fear, and pain is the chosen one God created you to be. Your future self is that person, fully alive, fully free, fully aligned with divine purpose. They're calling you to peel back those layers, to embrace the truth of who you are, and to let that truth shine. The world will notice. As you step into this shift, people will see something different in you. Your energy will shift, your presence will glow, your words will carry weight. They won't always understand it, but they'll feel it. Like Joseph, who rose from a pit to a palace, your transformation will be undeniable. Your future self is already living that truth, and they're calling you to catch up. This shift is also a surrender, not to defeat, but to divine timing. Your future self knows that God's plan unfolds perfectly, even when you can't see the full picture. They're asking you to let go of control, to stop trying to force the outcome, and to trust that every piece is falling into place. Like a seed breaking through the soil, your growth might feel slow, but it's unstoppable. Your future self is also a warrior, not with weapons, but with faith. They've fought battles you're only beginning to face, and they've won. They're calling you to pick up that same shield of faith, to stand firm against doubt, fear, and opposition. Like David facing Goliath, you're not fighting with worldly strength, you're fighting with the power of God's promise, and that's more than enough. The shift is a homecoming. It's you returning to the truth of who you are, to the divine spark God placed in you before the world began. Your future self is already home, standing in the fullness of that truth, radiating the light of their purpose. They're calling you to come home, not to a place, but to a state of being where you're fully alive, fully you, fully aligned with God's will. Every choice you make now is a step toward that homecoming. Every moment of faith, every act of courage, every release of fear brings you closer. Your future self is cheering you on, not from a distance, but from within. They're the voice in your heart, the fire in your spirit, the certainty that you were made for more. Listen to them, trust them, follow them. The shift is also a revelation. It's God unveiling the masterpiece He's been crafting in you all along. Your future self is that masterpiece, not perfect in the world's eyes, but perfect in His. They're calling you to see yourself as God sees you, chosen, loved, destined for greatness. Like a diamond emerging from the rough, you're being polished, refined, and revealed to the world. This transformation isn't just for you, it's for the generations that will follow. Your future self is building a legacy, not of wealth or fame, but of faith, purpose, and impact. Every step you take in this shift plants seeds for those who come after you. Like Abraham, who believed God's promise despite the impossible, you're creating a future that will bless others long after you're gone. Your future self is also a teacher. They've learned lessons you're still discovering, and they're passing that wisdom back to you. They're teaching you to trust, to rest, to believe that God's timing is perfect. They're showing you that every delay is a setup, every challenge is a lesson, every closed door is a redirection. Listen to their wisdom, it's the voice of experience, forged in the fires of your own journey. The shift is a call to rise. Your future self isn't sitting back, waiting for life to happen. They're standing tall, claiming their place in God's plan. They're calling you to rise too. Rise above fear. Rise above doubt. Rise above the limitations the world tries to place on you. Like Lazarus stepping out of the tomb, you're being called to leave behind the grave clothes of your past and walk into new life. If this message is sparking something in you, if you feel your future self stirring, take a moment to declare it. Hit that like button, subscribe to join thousands of chosen one souls, and leave a comment with 777. That number is your proclamation that you're ready for the shift, ready to step into the destiny God has prepared. Do it now, because every act of faith is a step toward your future self. This shift is also about alignment. Your future self is perfectly aligned with God's will, moving in harmony with His purpose. They're calling you to align, to align your thoughts with His truth, your actions with His plan, your heart with His love. When you align, everything flows, doors open, paths clear, blessings pour in. Like a compass pointing north, your future self is guiding you to true north, God's perfect will. The world will try to pull you off course. It will tempt you with shortcuts, distractions, and false promises. But your future self is steady, unshaken, focused. They've already navigated these temptations and come out stronger. They're calling you to stay the course, to keep your eyes on the prize, to trust that God's path is the only one worth walking. Like Paul, who pressed on toward the goal, you're being called to run your race with endurance. This shift is also a celebration. Your future self isn't just surviving, they're thriving, dancing in the joy of God's promises fulfilled. They're calling you to celebrate now, even before the breakthrough comes. Celebrate the journey, celebrate the growth, celebrate the faith that's carried you this far. Like Miriam leading the Israelites in song after crossing the Red Sea, your future self is calling you to sing, to praise, to trust that the victory is already yours. The shift is a transformation of perspective. Your future self sees the world differently, not as a place of lack, but as a canvas of possibility. They're calling you to see it too, to see every challenge as an opportunity, every setback as a setup, every moment as a gift. Like Elijah, who saw God's provision in the wilderness, you're being called to see the miraculous in the ordinary, to trust that God is working even when you can't see it. Your future self is also a leader. They're not following the crowd, they're blazing a trail, showing others what's possible when you trust God. They're calling you to lead, to not with arrogance, but with humility, not with force, but with faith. Like Deborah, who led with wisdom and courage, You're being called to step into your role as a light in the darkness, guiding others toward their own divine shift. This shift is about ownership. Your future self isn't waiting for permission. They're claiming their God-given authority, walking in the power of their calling. They're calling you to own your purpose, to stand in your truth, to declare that you are a chosen one, destined for greatness. Like Joshua, who claimed the promised land, you're being called to take possession of the life God has promised you. The shift is also a release. Your future self is free from the chains of fear, doubt, and shame. They're calling you to let go of those chains now, to step out of the prison of your past and into the freedom of God's plan. Like the woman at the well, who left her water jar behind to share her story, you're being called to leave behind what no longer serves you and embrace the new life waiting. Your future self is also a dreamer. They're not bound by what's realistic. They're dreaming God-sized dreams, believing for the impossible. They're calling you to dream too, to dream of a life filled with purpose, abundance, and impact, to dream of a world transformed by your light. Like Joseph, who dreamed of greatness despite his circumstances, you're being called to hold fast to the vision God has placed in your heart. The shift is a becoming. It's you stepping into the fullness of who God created you to be. Your future self is already there, living that truth, radiating that light. They're calling you to become that person now, not tomorrow, not when everything's perfect, but right now. Like Mary, who said yes to God's call, despite the unknown, you're being called to say yes to the shift, to trust that God will make a way. This transformation is also about connection. Your future self is deeply connected to God, to others, to purpose. They're calling you to connect, to lean into relationships that uplift you, to seek God's presence in every moment, to align with the divine flow of His plan. Like Ruth, who chose connection over isolation, you're being called to walk with those who will help you become who you're meant to be. The shift is a promise fulfilled. Your future self is living proof that God keeps His word. They're calling you to trust that promise, to believe that what God has spoken over your life will come to pass. Like Sarah, who laughed at the promise but saw it fulfilled, you're being called to move beyond doubt and embrace the certainty of God's faithfulness. Your future self is also a warrior of peace. They've fought battles, but they've learned that true victory comes from resting in God's strength. They're calling you to fight, not with anger or fear, but with peace, knowing that God is your defender. Like Gideon, who led with a small army but a mighty God, you're being called to trust that God's power is enough. This shift is about stepping into eternity. Your future self isn't bound by time. They're living in the eternal now of God's presence. They're calling you to see beyond the temporary, to focus on what lasts forever. Like Enoch, who walked with God and was no more, you're being called to live a life so aligned with the divine that it transcends the limits of this world. The shift is also a call to create. Your future self is a co-creator with God, bringing beauty, purpose, and change into the world. They're calling you to create, to use your gifts, your voice, your story to make a difference. Like Bezalel, who crafted the tabernacle with divine skill, you're being called to build something eternal with the talents God has given you. Your future self is a beacon. They shine so brightly that others can't help but notice. They're calling you to shine too, not to hide your light, but to let it blaze. Like a city on a hill, you're meant to be seen, to draw others to the truth, to the hope, to the God who's working in you. Step into that light, let it shine. The shift is about courage. Your future self isn't fearless because they've never faced fear. They're fearless because they've learned to move through it. They're calling you to be courageous, to face the unknown with faith, to trust that God is with you. Like Esther, who stepped into the king's court, knowing her life was at stake. You're being called to act with boldness, knowing God has your back. This transformation is also about rest. Your future self knows that true strength comes from resting in God's plan, not striving in your own. They're calling you to rest, to trust, to let go of the need to control. Like Jesus, who slept through the storm while his disciples panicked, you're being called to find peace in the midst of chaos, knowing God is in control. Your future self is also a storyteller. They're weaving a narrative of faith, resilience, and victory. They're calling you to tell your story, to not just the polished parts, but the raw, real moments of struggle and triumph. Like David, whose psalms poured out his heart to God, you're being called to share your journey, to let it inspire others. The shift is a homecoming to your true identity. Your future self is fully themselves, unapologetically chosen, unapologetically loved. They're calling you to embrace that identity now, to stop hiding, to stop doubting, to stop shrinking. Like the prodigal son returning to his father's arms, you're being called to come home to the truth of who you are in God's eyes. If this message is igniting your spirit, if you feel the shift taking hold, take a moment to proclaim it. Hit that like button, subscribe to join thousands of chosen one souls, and leave a comment with 777. That number is your declaration that you're ready to step into this divine transformation. Do it now, because every act of faith is a step closer to your future self. This shift is also about legacy. Your future self isn't just living for today, they're building something that will outlast them. They're calling you to think beyond the moment, to act with eternity in mind. Like Noah, who built an ark for a future he couldn't yet see, you're being called to create something that will stand the test of time, something that will bless generations. Your future self is a visionary. They see possibilities where others see problems, opportunities where others see obstacles. They're calling you to see with new eyes, to trust that God is working even in the impossible. Like Nehemiah, who rebuilt Jerusalem's walls against all odds, you're being called to envision a future that others can't yet see, and to build it with faith. The shift is a call to trust. Your future self knows that God's promises are true, that His timing is perfect, that His plan is good. They're calling you to trust, even when the path is unclear, even when the wait feels long. Like Hannah, who trusted God for a son despite years of barrenness, you're being called to hold fast to the promise, knowing it will come. This transformation is also about joy. Your future self isn't weighed down by worry, they're alive with the joy of God's presence. They're calling you to find that joy now, to let it fill your heart even in the waiting. Like Paul and Silas, who sang praises in prison, you're being called to rejoice, knowing that God is working all things for your good. Your future self is a light in the darkness. They shine because they've learned to trust, to rest, to rise. They're calling you to shine, too, not to wait for the perfect moment, but to let your light break through now. Like John the Baptist, who prepared the way in the wilderness, you're being called to be a voice, a beacon, a force for God's kingdom. The shift is a divine invitation. Your future self is standing at the door, knocking, calling you to step through. They know what's on the other side: freedom, purpose, abundance. They're asking you to answer the call, to walk through the door, to trust that God is waiting to meet you there. Like Isaiah, who said, "Here I am, send me. You're being called to say yes to the shift, to the destiny, to the life God has planned. This transformation is about becoming whole. Your future self is integrated, mind, body, spirit, all aligned with God's purpose. They're calling you to heal, to let go of the fragments of your past, to step into wholeness, like the woman who touched Jesus' cloak. You're being called to reach out, to believe that one touch of His presence will make you whole. Your future self is also a conqueror, not of people or places, but of fear, doubt, and limitation. They've already overcome, and they're calling you to claim that victory now. Like Caleb, who believed he could take the mountain at 85, you're being called to conquer the giants in your path, knowing that God's strength is enough. The shift is a call to authenticity. Your future self is unapologetically themselves, living in the truth of who God created them to be. They're calling you to be authentic, to stop pretending, to stop hiding, to stop comparing. Like John, who knew he wasn't the Messiah but embraced his role, you're being called to be fully you, knowing that's enough. This transformation is also about surrender. Your future self has learned to let go of control, to trust God's plan over their own. They're calling you to surrender, not to give up, but to give over. Like Jesus in the garden saying, "Not my will, but yours." You're being called to release your plans and embrace God's. Your future self is a trailblazer. They're not following paths others have walked, they're creating new ones. They're calling you to blaze your own trail, to step into uncharted territory with faith. Like Abraham, who left his home for a land God would show him, you're being called to trust the journey, knowing God is leading. The shift is about awakening. Your future self is wide awake, alive to God's presence, aware of His purpose. They're calling you to wake up to see the signs, to hear the call, to feel the shift happening now. Like the disciples on the road to Emmaus, whose eyes were opened, you're being called to see God's hand in every moment. This transformation is also about impact. Your future self isn't living for themselves. They're living for others, for God's kingdom, for eternity. They're calling you to make an impact, to use your gifts, your story, your light to change the world. Like Peter, who stepped out to lead the early church, you're being called to step into your role as a world changer. Your future self is a promise keeper. They've seen God's faithfulness, and they're calling you to trust it too. They know that every promise God has made will come to pass. Like Simeon, who waited for the Messiah and saw him, you're being called to hold fast to God's promises, knowing they're true. The shift is a call to rise above. Your future self is soaring, free from the weights of this world. They're calling you to rise to let go of what holds you down, to trust that God's plan is lifting you up. Like Isaiah's vision of those who hope in the Lord, you're being called to mount up with wings like eagles. This transformation is about alignment with eternity. Your future self is living in the eternal now, where time doesn't limit God's plan. They're calling you to align with that eternity, to see every moment as a step toward forever. Like Paul, who set his eyes on the eternal prize, you're being called to live for what lasts. Your future self is also a restorer. They're healing what's broken, not just in themselves, but in the world around them. They're calling you to restore to bring hope to the hopeless, light to the darkness, love to the broken. Like Nehemiah, who rebuilt the walls, you're being called to rebuild what's been torn down. The shift is a divine orchestration. Your future self is moving in harmony with God's symphony, every note perfectly timed. They're calling you to join the music, to trust the composer, to believe that every chord is leading to a masterpiece. Like David, who danced before the Lord, you're being called to move with joy in God's plan. This transformation is about freedom. Your future self is free not just from circumstances, but from fear, shame, and limitation. They're calling you to embrace that freedom now, to walk in the liberty God has promised. Like the Israelites crossing the Jordan, you're being called to step into the promised land of your destiny. Your future self is a light bearer. They carry the light of God's presence, and it shines through everything they do. They're calling you to bear that light too, to let it shine in your words, your actions, your life. Like the wise men who followed the star, you're being called to follow God's light and lead others to it. The shift is a call to believe. Your future self believes fully, fiercely, without reservation. They're calling you to believe, too, to trust that God is who He says He is, that you are who He says you are. Like Thomas, who doubted but then believed, you're being called to touch the truth and let it transform you. This transformation is about legacy. Your future self is building something that will echo through time, something that will outlive you. They're calling you to start now, to plant seeds of faith, love, and purpose. Like the apostles, who spread the gospel to the ends of the earth, you're being called to leave a mark that lasts forever. Your future self is also a peacemaker. They've found peace, not in the absence of trouble, but in the presence of God. They're calling you to make peace, too, to bring calm to the chaos, hope to the despair, unity to the division. Like Jesus, who said, "Peace be with you." You're being called to carry peace wherever you go. The shift is a divine awakening. Your future self is fully awake, alive to every moment, attuned to God's voice. They're calling you to wake up, too, to see the world through God's eyes, to hear His call, to feel His presence. Like Samuel, who heard God's voice in the night, you're being called to listen and respond. This transformation is about courage. Your future self is fearless, not because they've never known fear, but because they've learned to trust God through it. They're calling you to be courageous, to face the unknown with faith, to step into the shift with boldness. Like Joshua, who was told to be strong and courageous, you're being called to lead with faith. Your future self is a healer. They've found healing in God's presence, and they're calling you to heal, to not just yourself, but others. To mend broken hearts, to restore broken dreams, to bring light to broken places. Like Elisha, who brought life where there was death, you're being called to be a vessel of God's healing power.